Hello everyone, I'm Calogoops and welcome to another Paint With Me video. In this video, I'll be finishing the painting I featured in my first video, which I'll be linking down below. As usual, I'm just laying out my first layer, which is a clean water on the surface, but it turns out that the paintbrush I'm using is not as clean as I thought it would be. Here, I'm just adding some tones of orange, and honestly, I don't really know where I'm going for in this part of the video, simply because it's all about letting loose, and it's a great practice for you to let out your creativity and to show your artistic expression. When I paint with watercolors, I don't usually mix complementary colors such as blue and orange because it tends to mess up, but since today we're letting it loose, I'm trying that out. My painting process when it comes to watercolor portraits has been the same ever since I started. Adding those same old yellow tones to the first layer, then doing the warmer tones, adding the shadows, then doing the hair. It gets a little boring for me sometimes. Going back to our painting, now I'm just adding more darker tones to her dress using the wet on wet technique. Doing the wet on wet technique can be a little bit scary, especially for beginners like me, but I think it's actually satisfying to see how the paint flows in different directions and you're just letting the paint do their work. As I was saying earlier, following a process when it comes to painting watercolor portraits can get a little too bland or boring at some point, and sometimes you just really have to explore. While letting that dry, I'm just starting to lighten up the sketch of the guy at the bottom. Now I'm just adding the first wash to his face, which is a light purple, and in this portrait particularly, I'm using some colors that I don't really like or I don't use often. In this part, I honestly don't know what I'm going for. I'm just adding different tones that I think would match the portrait. It's like conveying a story about a guy who's sad and lost and got rejected. So that was the mood I'm going for. Adding the yellows in this portrait was a huge mistake. First, I added too much of that yellow and, well, once again, it was too bright for my liking. I am so relieved after I added these warmer tones, these oranges in the portrait, simply because it toned down the yellow at least a bit, and I think I can still pull this off. So if you want to see the results, please keep on watching. People tend to assume that realism is the highest standard when it comes to making art, but for me, I think that shouldn't be the case at all. Because there shouldn't be any standard at all when it comes to art. Because art is a way for you to express yourself, to express who you are and show people a story you want to tell in a very creative way, in your own way. So far, this painting is actually looking nice, and I'm glad that I saved it by adding these warmer tones. And I really love the colors I'm using here. It reminds me a lot of sunsets. Here comes my favorite part. Filling in bigger spaces such as the shirt is really satisfying for me to look at, because the paint just flows everywhere, and I just really love to see that. Now I'm filling in his brows with this dark blue shade that I used in his shirt and in this girl's dress. I was actually debating if I should do his hair red or brown, but since we want to try new things and learn something new in this video, I'm doing his hair red. Now I came to realize that I don't often use red, especially in my watercolor paintings, because I don't know, the red color just gives me anxiety, and you should be comfortable with the colors you're working with and whatever floats your boat. Now I'm doing the second layer of his shirt. So I kinda skipped the part where I added more red tones to his eyes, and I'm really sorry about that. But now I'm filling in his shadows using this paints gray color, which I really love. I don't like how his shirt is looking right now, so I'm adding this orange to make it look better, I guess. Here I'm adding more darker tones and also the shadows. Watercolor painting takes a lot of time and patience. And if you know me in real life, I am a very impatient person. And so, I honestly don't know why I chose watercolors as my main painting medium. Here, I'm just adding more details to his lips. For his dark tones, I'm using a maroonish color, which is like a darker shade of red basically. And also adding those same tones to the lips. Going back in with the hair for its second layer. And while that's still wet, I'm adding a shadow under his chin. Here, I skipped filming the part where I fill in the eyes and also the brows. Y'all better get used to this because I can't really film when I'm detailing something, especially the eyes, or else I just might mess up the whole painting. While I'm just adding more darker tones and shadows here and there, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank you guys for subscribing and supporting this YouTube venture of mine. For the shadows, I'm just adding this light wash of Paints Gray. Filling in the hair with a dark red shade which I really love. Doing this guy's hair is actually really satisfying, and aside from that, it makes me want to incorporate the color red even more in more of my paintings in the future. Here, I'm just using the Himi Miya Gouache paint refill from KMB Studios, which I really love. I've had this paint for months now and it's really nice, especially if you're a gouache painter, because I also paint with gouache as well. And unlike with watercolors, white is an essential paint when you're using gouache. Well, so much for that. Comment down below if you want me to make another paint with me video, but this time using gouache. I had an idea of adding flowing white lines to his eyes simply because I think it looks cool. And for the background, I'm just using a light purplish color, which is a mixture of indigos and the white gouache paint we used earlier. I feel like the shirt is too light for my liking, and so I'm adding more darker shades and more layers to this. And the thoughts I'm having while I'm painting in this part of the video is that it reminds me of this video game called Fireboy and Watergirl. This game is a big part of my childhood because I really loved playing this game, especially with my friends, with my cousin, and with my sister. Now I'm just adding more layers to her dress using these darker orange tones. Here, I also added more layers and more darker tones to the guy's shirt. Don't forget that blending is key. As you can see, the painting is really looking nice, and I think letting it loose sometimes is actually not a bad idea. Adding more layers of gouache to the eyes. And I'm cleaning things up with the second layer of the background. Got a little scared on this part because there's a dark tint, but you can always layer with gouache. Zooming you guys in so y'all can see how I almost flopped while writing my signature. Since I'm low-key tired of painting this, I'm just gonna write a K. And now here's a close-up of our finished painting. I really loved how this turned out, and if you also did, please do give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts linked down below. Thank you, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye!